You know exactly how much is in your account. Not approximately, exactly, down to the last dollar and the last cent. You check it before you buy groceries. You check it before you fill up the tank. You do the math in your head, standing in the checkout line. And sometimes you put things back because the number is getting too close to zero. This is not poverty. This is the specific financial anxiety of someone who is trying, someone who is working, who is showing up every day, but whose margin for error is essentially nothing. One unexpected bill, one car repair, one medical appointment without insurance. Any one of these things can tip you over. You don't talk about it. Nobody does. You just carry it quietly. You learn to make the math work, and you tell yourself, it's temporary. For most people, it is. For some people, it isn't. $1,000 changes almost nothing practical, but psychologically, it changes everything. At least if you've lived at level 1. Because now, one small disaster doesn't destroy the month. A tire, a broken phone, a vet bill. One thing, just one, can happen without pushing you into negative numbers. This is called a buffer. Financial advisors have technical terms for it. You just call it being able to breathe. But the cost at this level is time. You earned this $1,000 by trading hours of your life at a rate someone else decided was fair. You don't own your mornings. You don't own your schedule. You show up when you're told. You leave when you're allowed. And the $1,000 is the result. It's a start, even if it doesn't feel like one yet. $10,000 is the first number that feels real. It sits in your account and it doesn't disappear immediately. For the first time, you start thinking differently, not about this week, about this year. You make a small plan, an emergency fund, a goal, something that exists beyond the next paycheck. People at this level start to feel stable, and stability turns out to be its own kind of wealth. Not financial wealth, psychological wealth. The low-grade anxiety that has been living quietly in your chest starts to fade. But $10,000 also reveals something uncomfortable. You realize how long it took to save it. You look at the number, then the calendar, and then you do the math. At this rate, at this job, at this savings percentage, you finally understand how long the road ahead really is. Some people find that motivating. Some people find it devastating. $50,000 means options, not freedom. Not yet, but options. You could leave a bad job and survive for a year while finding a better one. You could make a down payment. You could finally take a risk that the level 1 version of you could never afford to take. This is the level where people begin to feel like adults financially. Bills are paid. There's a cushion. There's a plan. The relationship with money stops being purely reactive and becomes slightly proactive. But the cost at this level is invisible. To get here, you made choices. You said no to things, trips you didn't take, purchases you didn't make, versions of your life you quietly set aside in favor of the number in the account. Nobody sees those sacrifices. The account balance doesn't show them, but you know what it costs to build it. 6 figures. The number carries psychological weight far beyond what it actually provides, because the truth is, you are not rich. In most cities, $100,000 in net worth is comfortable, but not transformative. Still, something changes, not just in how you see yourself, but in how you think about what's possible. Money stops being the thing you constantly worry about and starts becoming a tool you think about strategically. You finally have enough that the basic questions are answered. And now, the interesting questions begin. What do I actually want? What am I building toward? What would I do if the safety net were bigger? But the cost at this level is comparison. Now you can clearly see the levels above you, and suddenly, the distance between where you are and where they are becomes visible. Comfort creates a new kind of dissatisfaction. You were never this aware of the horizon when you were just trying to survive. $500,000 means you could stop, not retire, not comfortably, not forever. But stop. For a while. Take a year. Reassess your life. Make a different choice without catastrophic consequences. The safety net is finally large enough that if you fall, you don't hit the ground. This is the level where people start making their first real investments, not savings accounts, actual capital allocation. Your money starts making money, slowly, quietly, without you having to trade hours of your life for it. But $500,000 reveals something uncomfortable. You start protecting it. The psychology of accumulation shifts into the psychology of preservation. You become slightly more conservative, slightly more risk-averse, slightly more aware of what losing it would mean. The money that was supposed to create freedom starts creating a new kind of worry. You have something to lose now, and that changes you more than you expected. The first million is a threshold. Cross it, and something changes in the room when you tell people what you do. Not always, not everywhere, but often enough that you notice it. People treat the number like a verdict, as evidence that you are a certain kind of person with a certain kind of future. Whether that's true doesn't matter. The perception is real, and it follows you. At $1 million, your money generates roughly $40,000 to $50,000 a year in conservative returns, enough to cover basic living costs in many places without touching the principal. And for the first time in your life, the question, "What if I just didn't work?" has a mathematical answer instead of a hypothetical one. The cost is relationships. Not all of them, but some. Money becomes a filter. It changes who approaches you, why they approach you, and what they want. You develop an instinct for it. You become harder to reach, more guarded, less willing to explain yourself. The $1 million that was supposed to simplify your life makes certain things more complicated instead. $5 million is the level where rich people finally feel rich. Not the level where you buy a yacht, the level where you genuinely stop worrying. The returns alone, $150,000 to $200,000 a year, conservatively, can fund a comfortable life in most cities. The principal stays untouched, and it keeps growing. You are no longer trading time for money in any meaningful sense. You can buy time now, and that is the real luxury. Not the things, the hours. You can pay people to do the things you don't want to do. You can structure your days around what you actually value. But $5 million brings a specific kind of loneliness that nobody warns you about. The frame of reference you shared with most people in your life no longer applies. Problems they have, you don't have. Problems you have, they can't understand. The financial gap slowly becomes a conversational gap, and then, quietly, a personal one. You are not unhappy. You are just somewhere that most people you love have never been. $10 million changes the texture of your daily life completely. The house is different. The neighborhood is different. The schools, the hospitals, the restaurants, the flights. Everything operates at a different register. You exist inside a version of the world that is physically the same city, but experientially a different country. At this level, you stop thinking about money almost entirely. It is handled. It grows. It compounds. It requires management. Professionals manage it for you, but it no longer requires your anxiety. And what fills the space where the anxiety used to be is the question of purpose. When survival is no longer the goal, when comfort is guaranteed, when the future is essentially secured, what are you actually for? What does a day mean? What does work mean? Some people find a profound answer to that question. Some people spend the rest of their lives looking for it. $100 million. The number becomes so large that it stops feeling real in any human sense. You cannot spend it in a lifetime of trying. It generates more money than most people will earn across 3 generations. This is no longer a financial position. It is a different category of existence. At this level, money becomes irrelevant to daily life. You eat what you want. You go where you want. You own what you want. The decisions that consume most people's lives, rent, bills, salary negotiations, career calculations, are simply not part of your day anymore. What replaces them is legacy. How you will be remembered. What you built. Whether the $100 million did anything meaningful other than quietly compound in accounts managed by people you've never met. Most people at this level have more than they could ever need. And still, in some strange, unresolved way, they are trying to figure out if they finally have enough. The number never stops. It only changes the question it asks you, and you are still answering.